Hey guys, so I got a lot of inquiries about acoustic guitar lessons. So this is going to be the first, and this is going to be tailored towards the beginner. I mean the absolute beginner guitar player who has yet to become a guitar player, who hasn't even picked up the instrument yet. So in the beginning I'm going to talk about the geography of the guitar, the different pieces and parts that make up the guitar, and a little later on we're gonna learn a couple of easy songs and navigate our way into actually becoming a guitar player, playing the instrument. So, start out with, this is your basic acoustic guitar. This is actually an acoustic electric because I have it plugged into my amplifier and recording software. Acoustic electric just means it's an acoustic guitar that has onboard electronics. So if you want to plug it in to an amplifier or a PA, you have that capability. But for the most part, if the guitar is hollow, if it's got a hole in the middle like this, it's an acoustic guitar. So differences between acoustic and electric, pretty obvious. These ones are they're larger, they're hollow bodied, they're meant for really not being electric. They're meant for the opposite, to project the sound from the strings in such a way that doesn't require electricity. This guitar in particular is kind of an exception to the rule because it does both, but for the most part, acoustic guitar is made for an audience that doesn't require electricity. So difference in playing on acoustic versus playing electric. So you're going to have little nuances on the acoustic guitar that you won't have in the electric, vice versa. And in my honest opinion, it's a little more difficult to play on an acoustic guitar when you're a beginner, but that is a good thing. The reason why is because the strings are generally thicker than an electric guitar. They're going to be a little harder for your fingers to develop the strength and the calluses to press on, save for nylon acoustic guitar, which is classical. It's a little different. Those strings are easier on your fingers for the most part, but like I said, this is a good thing. You want to build that strength and that confidence in those calluses in your fingers when you begin, so that whenever you get to the point where you do upgrade, if that's your intention, to an electric guitar, it's going to feel so much easier. It's going to be like butter. You're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like I said, if you wanted to go that route. But as an entry-level instrument, acoustic is great because it's really low maintenance. You don't have to deal with buying an amplifier or pedals or plugging it in or knowing, what sounds good or whatnot. You just get a generally good acoustic guitar. You're gonna spend $200-300. You'll have a nice instrument that is pretty maintenance-free, and you can play it pretty much anywhere you take it. So parts of the guitar. We have down here, actually, I should say. So when you're talking about playing on the guitar, somebody will say, well, we're going to move up to the 12th fret. Moving up is this direction towards the body. So this would be up. If I want to move this chord down, this direction is down. So up, down. And that is because the sound is a higher pitch whenever you fret, meaning press down on the strings higher, more towards the bigger part of the guitar. You're essentially shortening the strings. So right now this string is vibrating at a certain hertz, but if I shorten it, if I cut it in half and I press here, it's a higher pitch. It sounds higher. So we say this is down, this is up. So down here you have the headstock. This piece here on the neck is called the headstock. These are always different shapes and sizes. Usually you can identify a guitar or a manufacturer or a specific model by the shape of the headstock, kind of unique to every instrument. On the headstock you have the tuners. These guys right here, you turn them up and down in order to tune the string up and down. This little piece right here that all the strings guide through is called the nut. That's an important piece, and it makes sure all the strings are spaced evenly and don't slide all over the place whenever you're playing it. So talking about the tuners, standard tuning for your guitar is going to be, well, that's what it's called. It's standard tuning, and the strings are tuned in fourths. But as a beginner, what you need to remember is you need to memorize the names of the strings, which is also going to be the note of the string whenever it's plucked open. And if you can do that, it's great. If you can also remember the numbers, that's even better. But either or will be good for you to start out with. So some people, they're able to memorize the notes, and so they get that down right away. Other people, they memorize the numbers. So starting from the bottom to the top, again, here's another geographical thing here. The bigger strings generally will be referred to as the bottom. The higher strings will be the top. So once again, kind of like low, think low as being down, like it would regularly, and then higher is going to be smaller. So smaller strings make a higher noise. The lower strings make a lower sound. So the lowest string is an E, because tuned to standard tuning, this note is an E. So this is the E string. Now, it's important to remember there are two E strings on the guitar, but it's easy because it's symmetrical. It's the lowest one and the highest one, both on the outside. So this low E is also the sixth string. Now, this is if we're playing on a 6-string guitar. There's 7-string guitars, there's 8-string, there's 12-string guitars. If you're a beginner, you'll probably have a 6-string guitar in your hand. So this is the E string, the low E string. This is also the 6th string. Moving up, which is ironically down if you're looking at the guitar, but moving to the next string is the 5th string. This is going to be an A. So we had a low E, 6th string, and then an A, 5th string. Next string is the D string, the 4th string, 6, 5, and 4. This is D because it's tuned to a D in standard tuning. Next is a G string. This is the 3rd string. So G, 3rd string. Second to last is a B. That is the 2nd string. Tuned to a B, so it's the B string. And then wrapping it up, we have the octave of the 1st string, of the lowest string that we played. This is the 1st string, and it's an E. So once again, we had 2 strings here that are the same note. These are both E's. They're just different octave. Octave is the same note. It's just a higher version of that note. So 6th string E, 5th string A, 4th string D, 3rd string G, 2nd string B, again an E. This is the 1st string. So that's the number of strings, and those are the notes of the strings when you're tuned to standard tuning. So I want to talk a little about using a pick versus using your fingers when you're playing the acoustic guitar. I get this question a lot from my students. Should I use a pick? Should I use my fingers? The answer is really not for me to provide. It's only within specific contexts. And when you're a beginner, you really just want to go with what's more comfortable for you, because you're going to be learning fundamental, like basic stuff, and there's not going to be a right or wrong way unless you're holding the pick some weird way. But the differences between playing with a pick and your fingers, with a pick you're going to get a little more aggressive attack. It's going to be louder. It's going to cut through a lot more. With your fingers, you're going to hear notes a little more mellow. It's going to be quieter. It's going to be a little like earthier, I guess you would say. The fingers versus the pick are a little they're a little better for doing like arpeggiated stuff, which is single notes kind of played in succession, like Stairway to Heaven, for instance. Something like that. It's easy to get those notes to ring through whenever you have the coordination with your fingers. And that song is, the intro, which is what I just played, is very kind of quiet, and it just kind of like slowly rolls along. Whereas if I was to do it with the pick, it might be a little louder, and it might not fit the context. What I was doing there is hybrid picking. I was using my pick and my finger because it's impossible to play that with just the pick. I mean, it might be possible, but it would be really difficult. No, it's not possible because when you're playing two notes at the same time, which on that lick you have to play this note and this note, you can't get around it. You have to use a finger because the pick can only be on one string at a time. There's no way to put the pick on two strings at once, so that's where the fingers come in handy. But as far as like strumming chords, you're strumming with a pick. Very loud, very aggressive, cuts through. If I was to do that with my fingers, noticeably quieter. Plus, it has kind of a bassier tone. It doesn't cut through as much as the pick would. So that's the difference between using a pick and using your fingers. Alright, so I want to talk about tuning your guitar. Super important. It's absolute must that you know how to tune your guitar. If you're able to play something on guitar, but you're always out of tune, you're going to sound and look like an amateur, and it's easy to learn, and it's something that you have to do whenever you're starting out. So I highly recommend that you invest in a tuner. These became popular in the last 10 years, really popular in the last 5. They're clip-on tuners. They go on the headstock up here. They use vibrations of the guitar, which is a little more accurate than a microphone tuner to let you know if you need to tune it up or down. It works on electric or acoustic, really doesn't matter, as long as it vibrates, which every guitar will. And it's very convenient. So the way it works, clip it on there, turn this around so you can see, strike a note, and depending on what tuner you have, it'll change color, or it'll have a needle that moves back and forth, or strobes to tell you if you need to tune the string up or down. The beauty about the TC Electronic Polytune, with the one that I have, you can hit all the strings at the same time, and it'll let you know which ones are out, up or down, and you can tune them accordingly. Kind of helps if you're like performing or something. You don't want to sit there and check every single note. You just hit them all, say, okay, this one's good, needs to go up, and then the rest are fine, then you start playing. So if you are out of tune anywhere, say if my A string was out of tune, you just tune the key until whatever tuner you have is, usually they'll kind of be in the middle. It'll highlight the note. It'll say A. This is where knowing the names of the strings comes in handy. It'll say A, and if the needle is off this way, it'll mean that it's down. You got to tune the string up. That's up. This is down. So you just got to find that balance where it looks good on your tuner and it sounds good to your ear. You should also know how to tune your guitar without having to rely exclusively on the tuner. So if you're in a situation you forgot your tuner or the battery's dead or whatever, you don't have to panic. You can say, well, it's okay. I know how to tune my guitar without a tuner. I just need a point of reference. So if you have somebody, with another instrument, they can hit a note for you. You listen to it. You can use that as a reference, piano, another guitar. Even if you don't have another instrument, but you can kind of tell that one of your strings is more in tune than the other, or at least one string you can tune the rest of them too, then, like I said, you don't have to panic and be like, oh God, I can't play because my guitar's out of tune. This is how you do that. So before I show you, you need to know that the guitar has frets. Frets are these little nickel wires that are bound into the neck, the fretboard here. So the frets are numbered, just like the strings, but there's no notes to them. They're only going to always be numbers. So the first fret here is the first fret. Next one is the second fret, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, so on. All guitars are going to have first to the 12th fret. Depending on the guitar, you'll have more or less. They go up to 24, I think maybe even 27. But most guitars, especially acoustic guitars, will have like 19, 18, 20, maybe 22. You're always going to have 12 though. These are usually indicated with the dots. that kind of gives you a point of reference to know where you're at playing the guitar. The first dot is going to be on the 3rd fret here, and they go up in odd intervals until you get to 12. So you have 3, 5, 7. Almost all guitars have 1 dot here on the 7th fret. I don't know why mine has 2. It's just weird. 9, another odd number, and then we jump to 12, so an even number. 12 is always going to have 2 dots right there. Some guitars might have like a little bird or some kind of special inlay. Depends on the instrument, but almost all of them will have 12. The dots are also going to be hopefully on the side, the inlay here, so that you can see it while you're playing the guitar. You don't have to look over. So those tell you where you're at. Let's talk about the fingers. So when you're playing guitar and you're either teaching yourself, you're reading a tab, or you're watching this video, you're reading out of a book, or if you're in a lesson and somebody's asking you to put this finger in this location, you need to know which fingers correspond to which numbers. So for the guitar, the fingering goes, pointer finger is number 1, second finger is the middle finger, third finger is the ring finger, fourth finger is the pinky. And this is the same for both hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is different, however, than the piano. If you've ever played piano, the fingering is different, but it's always going to be the same for the guitar. So if somebody asks for your 3rd finger on the 3rd string on the 2nd fret, that's what they're asking for. If something in a tab that you're reading calls for your 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, 2nd finger, 3rd fret, 6th string, that's what you need to play. So those are the fingerings for the guitar. Okay, so in order to tune your guitar without having to rely on a tuner, you need a point of reference. So you're always going to use the string that's below the one that you're tuning as your point of reference. And most of the time you're going to be on the 5th fret with one exception, and I'll explain that whenever we get to it. So if I wanted to tune the 5th string, the A, then I'm going to check that against the string below it, which is the 6th string. Now, when we say press on the 5th fret, we actually mean press in the middle. So it's going to be in between technically the 5th and the 4th fret. You're not going to ever want to press right on the fret, because then you get a weird sound. You're going to press in the middle. If anybody tells you, that's what they mean. So pressing on the 5th fret on the 6th string, we get this note, which is an A. And this is what our 5th string should sound like. So that's now become our point of reference. So I strike this, and then I strike the next string open, which is the one that we're tuning, and it's radically different. It's way too low. We need to tune that up. So when I'm tuning it, I use my point of reference again, I listen to it, I remember it, then I strike the string that I need to tune, and try to get it as close as possible. It's pretty close. So moving on, now our point of reference for the 4th string is actually the 5th string, and we're on the 5th fret again. So pressing on the 5th fret of the 5th string, this is what the 4th string should sound like. And it does, so we can move on to the next. So to check the 3rd string, we used the 4th string on the 5th fret once again. That one's good as well. Now, here's where it gets different. So when we want to check the 2nd string, we go down to the 4th fret on the 3rd string. And those are pretty close. Go back up to the 5th string just like all the ones before. Go back up to the 5th fret just like all the other strings before to check the highest E string. That one's a little off, so we're going to tune that one up. Now they're the same. So just a little recap. You're going to use the 5th fret most of the time, always the string below, to check the string above. Sounds good? Sounds good. Now we get to the 3rd string, we go down to the 4th fret, back up to the 5th fret to check the high E string. And we're in tune. So all this fundamental stuff that I talked about in this video should help you to really get familiar with the instrument and to learn the terms and the nomenclature that you're often going to hear when you're sitting down with somebody for a lesson, or when you open a book and you're trying to teach yourself a song, which is the fun part. You want to be able to play songs, you want to be able to play what you love and really express yourself. So stay tuned. In part 2 of the next video, we're going to actually start to play some songs and get to the fun stuff. Thanks.
And it's a story of love.